I was born in Sugar City on August the 15th, 1935.
I was born in Castledale, Utah, and my mother and dad were in their 40s when I was born. I had 3 older brothers and older sister, and then Wilma and I came later in life. Wilma was 3.5 years younger than I was. So actually I grew up with the grandkids.
I always loved horses, and we had horses around out on the farm all the time. In fact, Dad worked the horses, and I would go out and follow him around as much as I could as he was working the horses and plowing the fields and harrowing the fields and planting the fields. And I'd often ask him if he would help me get on a horse. And he told me one day, he says, "Son, you just got to quit bothering me all this time to get on the horse. I'll teach you how to get on the horse by yourself. When she puts her head down to eat the grass, then you turn around and you sit on her head. And she'll lift her head up, and then you can slide down her neck and get on her back."
My fun things I did as a child was hike in the hills and read. I had a good friend, Jerry, who we would go hike in the hills, and we would go down in the park, and we would gather up the leaves and jump in leaves. I wanted to go swimming every day, and my mother didn't have money enough to pay for my swimming, so I could go every day. So I took some of my old swimming suits down, and I went to the lady at the swimming pool, and I said, "If you wear these swimming suits, could I have a pass for the year and go swimming every day?" And she said, "Sure." So that was my first entrepreneurial job, was to rent my swimming suits out so that I could go swimming every day. And I was able to go swimming all the time I was in Price, every day.
We, in fact, as a group, everything we did, we kind of did in Sugar City as a north-south situation. We'd play football north-south against each other. We would play basketball north-south against each other. We would even have BB gun wars north-south against each other. We had an opportunity to go into an old potato warehouse, and we actually renovated that and built a gymnasium in it, where we could have baskets on both ends of the floor, and that's where our basketball was done.
While we were in the place in Price, my father found a coal mine that he wanted to develop, and so he went out and started to develop a coal mine. And again, I was chosen to go with him, and I would go out to the coal mine and be with him in case something should happen to him. Well, one day, when he was down to the depot in Price, and he was trying to get a car to haul his coal in, there was a man who had a coal mine right next to his that didn't want Dad to develop his coal mine. And he came up behind him and hit him over the head with a hammer. My dad was in the hospital for months recuperating, and then he had to go home and stay in our house in Price, the one he built on the hill, for a year. And so I would babysit. There was all kinds of people that needed babysitters down the hill from us, and so practically every night I had a babysitting job, and I helped them with the finances while my dad was recuperating.
I had the opportunity, of course, to kind of excel in athletics, more so than school, than academics. I became a student body president at Sugar Salem, was the captain of the football and basketball teams. I also played baseball and track, and that was all great experiences.
I was very active in high school. I was a pep club president, and I was just some fun things. I was a homecoming chairman, and I also was a homecoming dance, and I remember I didn't have a date. It wasn't very fun. But I did well in high school, and I decided that I'd have to keep my grades up so I could get a scholarship, which I did. And I was able to go to Utah State on a scholarship.
If I had scholarships, I could have gone and probably met Joan earlier. So I had a scholarship to go to Utah State University for football, and at the time, Boise Junior College, also, and a couple other colleges, but decided to go to Rick's College, and I had a full ride scholarship there for football, and could stay home and go to Rick's. So that was a great experience. I was class president at Rick's College, and also a co-captain of the football team with Arliss Wilmore. Then I couldn't play my last year in college because Rick's went back to a 2-year school, and so that's when I decided to go on a mission. That too was another experience, great experience, not only as a missionary, but had an opportunity to play basketball there. And you know the story of the Mormon Yankees and the spirit of the game. A movie developed as we played the international teams that were there in Melbourne in 1956 for the Olympic Games. My brother Harlan was at Oxford University in England at the time, and when I was finished in March, he was about ready to finish his schooling at Oxford and go back to the States. And he said, well, why don't you just plan to come to England? When I got back from England, I'd been over there so long that my draft notice was in the mail. And so I was home for about a month, less than a month, and then I went into the service. Well, I was just going to start the University of Utah. I had rented an apartment in Midvale, but my uncle and aunt, Sid and Irma Treneman, lived close to the University of Utah. And so they invited me to come over and check out the little apartment that they had in the basement of their home. See if I wanted to live there. And so I went there on a Sunday and went to church with them. And after church, we were standing out in the hall, just talking, and a couple of girls walked by, and one particularly caught my eye, and I said, do you know that girl? And Aunt Irma said, well, we can find out. And so she called Joan over, and we were introduced at that time in church.
Our first date, I had been going with this fellow, and they decided that he was out of town, so
For a long time.
So I thought it'd be all right to go on a date, which I did. And yeah, I didn't know how to spell Nile. I spelled it Nile, and he promptly showed me it was wrong. And then we came home, and as I got home, I thought in my mind, and I felt this real strong impression, this was the man I was going to marry. And
what a first date.
On our first date. And I knelt down and prayed that night, and it was just like fire. I knew that this was going to happen. Well, we had been going together for a while, and I invited him down for a special dinner. I lived in this little basement apartment, and I fixed a really nice dinner, the shrimp and the candles and the steak. And we sat there and looked at each other, and neither one of us could eat.
It was just kind of sad that we left that good meal. that Joan had prepared, and it was really a great looking meal, and the table was set nicely and had candles and everything, but there was just no hunger there for food. And so we decided to go sit on the couch, and we visited for a while, and then I popped the question. I didn't have a ring at the time, however. We made all the arrangements to go to the temple and go be married on April the 13th.
When I called the Salt Lake Temple, I requested that maybe the Apostle Romney could marry us, and they said, sure, that's no problem.
He also was the one who set me apart when I went on a mission. So that was kind of special.
Our mother had a reception down in Price, and I was teaching school, and so all my friends, well, not friends, but my students, some of my students that I'd gotten real close to, I asked them to serve at my reception. And so they all drove down to Price and stayed in Price and then served at my reception, which was kind of fun.
My brother Arlen was our best man. My sisters also were in the line, Wilma and Luana. We wanted to go on a honeymoon, and we decided we'd go down to Bryce and Zion's, and we stayed in St. George. But we had to borrow Joan's dad's car to do that. We were out of Price, and it was late, and so we decided we'd stop at Soldiers. Anyway, just up on the pass, out of Price a ways, and we parked in there and got the motel, and the guy knew Bill Snow's car, and so he called Bill and he says, "What's your car doing here?" And so Joan's dad had to explain that we'd just got married and we had used his car. And so what we decided would be a good thing for us is when we were where we could is to find some property, find a place, kind of a farm ranch situation idea, and because we felt like that would be good to raise the family in that kind of situation. And so that's what we tried to do, and that's what we've done most of our life. Most of our married life had some place where the kids could work and we could be together on the farm.
I think my advice to our generations is that the person that you can trust the most is your Father in heaven. And he tells us that if we pay our tithing, that we'll have blessings from heaven that we cannot contain. And that has been a true thing to our family. We've always put tithing before we paid any other bills. And when you're teaching school, you're not making a lot of money. So it just seemed that things just worked out, no matter what, because we put our tithing first.